Okay, so as we're coming to the end of this first project, just know that this is my end, but this could be your beginning. And so if there's more things that you want to add on here, I highly recommend that you play and explore and try things. Um, just to give you an idea of like one more feature we could add to the game, we modified our game so that way when we were driving on the grass, we couldn't just go full speed. So it kind of made the game feel more responsive. Like it was responding to what was happening on the screen. And so let's add one more little bit of responsiveness to this. So I'm going to actually take my track. I'm going to modify it a little bit. So I'm going to go into the backdrops. So I'm going to click over here. It says stage backdrop. Um, I want to go into the actual track. And I'm going to add something. I was actually thinking about this last night too. I was thinking, my track, one thing that's kind of interesting is, on like a real racetrack, there might be places where there are hazards, things on the track that, you don't want to go over or run into. For example, maybe like an oil slick, a place where a bunch of oil got spilled. So I'm actually going to use, earlier we used the rectangle tool to kind of, and you could draw a much better racetrack than I did. But I use the rectangle tool just to draw some quick, rectangles there. I'm going to use the circle tool for this. And I want to take the circle tool and I want to draw in black. So I'm going to make sure that my fill color is black there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a spot on my track somewhere it's not like too obvious, but maybe like make it kind of hard for the user. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw, so I just drew a little black circle there. I might draw a couple more just to make it look more splotchy. You'll see why in a second. Okay, now I don't want to draw it too big, and we know when you do this on your game, you can change how you draw it. You could even use the little hand draw tool there and kind of touch up the corners if you want. But I want to draw a little oil slick. And so now we've got this spot on our track that looks all splotchy, right? Okay, now what we want to do is I want to make the game to where as the person's driving, if they hit this oil slick, I want them to lose control of the car just for a second. And so what we're going to, I know it's kind of mean spirited, right? So what I'm going to do is I was in the backdrop, I was drawing. I'm going to go back to the code for our car. So I'm going to go back to the code. Now, if you notice, I'm still stuck in the drawing part. So I'm going to click on the code tab. But I want to make sure that I've clicked on the car because this is where all my code is. A lot of times kids are like, where did all my code go? And I'm like, well, you notice how you're clicked on the backdrop there? You can actually put code in the backdrop, and in bigger games that we make, we would need to do that. But this game's pretty simple. So we're just going to go to click on the car, make sure we're in code. So I've got all our code here. So we're going to add one more piece of code. Now, earlier we said, hey, when you click the green flag, set the car speed to 3, and then we had this forever loop, which just means that as long as the game is going, as long as the game is playing, it's going to move the car forward, and then it's going to check, am I touching the color green? Because if I'm touching the color green, then I want to make the car speed slow down. So we're going to add something to this forever loop. We're going to say, hey, I want you to always scratch, always every single millisecond be checking, are you touching that green? Because if you're touching that green, you're going to slow the car down. We're going to add something to it now. So we're going to go to control. This is another one of those things where you're going to have to be very careful with like where you put the code block. As a matter of fact, because I know for a fact I'm not going to have a lot of room here, I'm actually going to take this when right arrow key pressed. I'm going to move it up here just to get it out of the way. If you need to do something like that, move your code around. It doesn't actually matter where you put these code blocks, by the way. You can put them wherever you want. Like I said earlier, I like to kind of organize them all more for my benefit, but Scratch doesn't care. Okay, we're going to add one more if-then block. We are going to put it right underneath our first if-then. So this is a real mess, right? So you notice how we've got forever, and inside of that, move, and then if, and then inside of that if is the set car speed. We're going to put this one right below it, not inside of it, below it. So, oops, just like that. If yours goes inside here, that doesn't look like a big deal. It's not going to work. It's got to go right below it. If I drag all this out, it looks like that. If touching color, then set the car speed, and then right below it, a brand new one. If this, then that. Okay, put it all back in there, exactly like that. Now, what's kind of funny is we're going to do another touching color, but this time, so remember, touching color is in sensing, light blue. If touching, touching color, we're going to set our color to that black over there. Remember, we click on the color and we go down here to the little like dropper and we're going to click on that black. That's the exact color black that we want. If touching, remember, don't try and use the slider. That won't work. It has to be exactly the right color. So just use a little dropper tool and say that black right there. If we're touching that black color, why don't we make the car spin out? So what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, make the car turn. And let's make it turn. Let's just be mean. We're going to use a new thing. So right now it says turn 15 degrees. If I click the code right now, let's see what happens. Okay, driving. Oh no, that's no good. Notice how when we hit it, we spin. Oh, okay, that was crazy. If we drive really slow, we just spin to the point where we can't really get out of it, right? Okay, let's experiment. You notice I went down here to this green and operators, and we're going to pick a random number. See how it says pick random? Right now, this is set to 15. 15 might be a little bit too big, so we're going to try an experiment. We're going to use this pick random, and it says pick random 1 to 10. That means Scratch will just pull a number out of a hat. Any number between 1 and 10. Could be 3, could be 5, could be 9. It won't be 11 because that would be too big, right? Between 1 and 10. And so we're going to take this pick random 1 through 10, and we're going to drag it over here, and we're going to pop it right in here. Now, I don't want it to be 1 through 10. Let's try, so you see how I put it, turn 15 degrees. We're going to replace 15. I don't want 15. I want Scratch to pick a random number. Let's try pick a random number between 1 and 2. Let's see what happens when we drive through the thing now. Okay, if you notice, I still kind of spun, but not nearly as badly, to the point where it was almost like you couldn't even tell I was spinning. So this is where we're going to, just like I said, experiment with the numbers. 1 and 2, that was too small, right? Maybe we should try the lowest number I wanted to pick is like turn 3 degrees. The highest number, let's say, is like 7 degrees. That'd be a bad spin out. Let's try that. Oh, okay. That was maybe a little too much. It really spun out. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, that was like too much. Ah! Spinning all over the place. I think, let's try a sweet spot. Pick random 3 to 5. That means that it would either be 3, 4, or 5 degrees. Let's try that. Okay, last one. Let's see if this works. Oh, yeah, that was perfect. So now when you're driving around the track and you hit this thing, oh, gosh, I'm sliding all over the place. Now, what that does is that really makes the game a lot more difficult, right? Because now when you're driving around your track, if you hit that oil slick, you are going to get just, I'm sliding all over the place. Okay. That's just like I said, just another one of those like very simple. We added 3 little blocks of code, and all of a sudden we make the game a lot different. We added an obstacle, something that the player has to now work around, and it makes our game a little more responsive. Okay. If you want to keep working on this game, the number one thing I would change from this point going forward is I would draw a better car. The side view of the car continues to drive me nuts. I just haven't fixed it because I've been busy trying to add more code. But you could go into the costume for the car and you could draw your own. You could draw a better one. Um, yeah, I mean, there's just a million things. You could add more obstacles. You could even, maybe, you could add a power up. You could add something that if you run over it, maybe it would increase your car speed. Maybe it would take this number over here, the speed limit that we made. Maybe you could make a power up that if the player got it, it could increase that number. I mean, there's just lots of things you could do, right? But this is the end of the road for me. So I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, send me a message. Let me know, and then hopefully in the future we can make a different game. I love there's a flying game that's like a side scroller is what we call it. It's a lot of fun. I'm hoping we get to do that project. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. And if you have any questions, just shoot them up on the Schoology page. All right, happy coding.